And now, from the CFTK-TV studios, this is Open Connection with your host, Robert Pictou.
Welcome to Open Connection, your host, Robert Pictou. Our show today comes to you from the traditional and unceded territory of the Tsimshian people. In March of 1778, Captain James Cook made history as the first recorded European to step onto what is known as British Columbia. At the time, Cook was regarded as Britain's leading explorer, navigator, and cartographer. Today on Open Connection, we delve into our archives to share a glimpse of the summer of 1978.
This was the summer of '78. 200 years ago, in another summer of '78, two sailing ships were making the slow, arduous journey northward from the Oregon coast, past Nootka and Queen Charlotte Islands to the Bering Strait and Icy Cape. The ships were the Resolution and the Discovery. In command, Captain James Cook. Cook had been sent out from London to search for a northwest passage to connect the Atlantic and Pacific Oceans, a scheme and a dream of the best navigators and men of the day, as a shorter route between Europe and the Orient would make trading a lot more practical and profitable. Snow-capped mountains, majestic volcanoes spewing black smoke, cascading waterfalls, and trees, an endless, unbroken chain of trees. These were the sightings of Captain Cook and his men. His journals tell of the encounters with the native people and his observation of their ancient customs and colorful festivities, of the dense fog that would roll in suddenly and surround the ships, halting any movement for days on end, and of the wild, untamed beauty of the landscape he was passing. Cook never did find the passage, but he charted and mapped the coast as he went north, claiming the rugged country in the name of the king. There was a midshipman by the name of George Vancouver sailing on the Discovery, who was later to return and make a name for himself, but it was Captain James Cook, the first of the explorers and navigators to this area, who swept away the long-held myths of the Pacific Northwest and literally put us on the map. That was one of '78. And this is another, 200 years later, the summer of 1978, and the Northwest, a much busier place. Among the celebrations that shared the bicentennial of Captain James Cook was Cook's birthday, a silver jubilee in honor of the date of incorporation, March 1953. The early history of Kitimat starts midway back to the days of the ship Discovery. 3 years after BC joined Confederation, in 1871, the Canadian Pacific surveyors were in the Kitimat Valley looking for the east-west route to connect the new province with the rest of the nation. But a southern route won out, and the valley was left to the natives who lived here. Other than the missionaries, there was little or no white settlement here until the 1900s.
Open Connection will be right back after these messages. And now, from the CFTK-TV studios, this is Open Connection with your host, Robert Pictou.
Thank you for staying with us. The Grand Trunk Railway was originally designed to link Toronto and Montreal, and it rapidly grew by incorporating other railway companies, emerging with the Atlantic and St. Lawrence Railroad. This growth played a vital role in fortifying British North America and advancing it towards Confederation. Let us return to the archives to discover one of GTR's port terminus.
Prospectors mining gold just 4 miles east of the Haisla village, and then the railway again in 1907 with talk of the Grand Trunk Railway using Kitimat as a port terminus. But again, the route went elsewhere. Settlers came in. They cleared the land and they built homesteads, but they found the weather and the terrain unfavorable for their crops, and discouraged, most of them left the Kitimat Valley. It was the high country lakes and the coast mountain snowcaps that finally got things moving. In 1939, the BC government studied the potentials for electrical power and found grounds for approaching the Aluminum Company of Canada with a business proposition. The war intervened, but when it ended, Alcan started the work of completing a plan on a $500 million project, Camano and the smelter site at Kitimat. The project began with power, the construction of the Kenny Dam and the Skins Lake Spillway, complete by November of '52 and among the largest rock-filled dams in the world, backing up the water reserves to create hydropower for an energy-hungry industry. The third part of construction was the massive tunnel project from the reservoir to Camano, 10 miles away. Straight through the heart of the mountain, as wide as a 2-lane highway, dropping 2,600 feet to the turbines below. The powerhouse at Camano was carved as a cavern inside the granite mountains. 8 massive generators turned out the power for smelter and town site, transmitting that energy over 50 miles of the world's roughest terrain. High mountain passes, dangerous cliffs, glaciers, and gorges, all spanned by the 178 towers that supported transmission of the spark to the new smelter and the community that grew up around it. As it grew, it matured, broadening its employment base with the advent of the Huracan pulp and paper mill, and broadening its horizons with efforts toward growth in the North Coast port. The young community of Kitimat had an exciting first 25 years, due mainly to the dynamics and diversity of the residents. An ethnic mixture of youth, enterprise, and energy that assures continuance and promises more in the next quarter century.
Open Connection will be right back after these messages. And now, from the CFTK-TV studios, This is Open Connection with your host, Robert Pictou.
Welcome back to Open Connection. Logger sports, commonly referred to as lumberjack sports, is a competitive activity that highlights traditional logging skills through a variety of events. These events typically include axe throwing, sawing, chopping, and other techniques employed by lumberjacks. The sport boasts a rich history, which origins linked to forestry workers and lumberjacks. Let us return to the archives to the summer of 1978.
In Thornhill this summer, the 18th annual Logger Sports Day at Lions Park, drawing sizable crowds out into the sunshine to watch some of the top loggers in the industry compete for $3,000 in prize money, the Bull of the Woods Trophy. The competition ran over 2 days, the 4th and 5th of June. The finer points of log burling, axe throwing, underhand log chop, chokerman's race, single bucking, pole falling and topping, the stand chop, obstacle pole bucking, and the power saw events, all displaying the skills of the industry's best. Competition to put some fun in the everyday duties of men who work in the bush. The duo of Andy Lambert and Bull Hyde won the double hand bucking run for the Canadian Championship. The Bull of the Woods is the best all-round logger competing, and Ron Hartle of Souk claimed that honor in Thornhill this year. He's done it before, and finishing first in 6 of the events against some of the best proves the veteran logger deserved to claim the title. But in the nature of things, youth was hard on his heels. 16-year-old Greg Hart of Wannock finished first in 3 events. That made that young man the runner-up to the Bull of the Woods. And the promise was there for a threat to Ron's crown when veteran and youth meet for next year's Logger Sports. An early favorite of the summer events in the Northwest is the annual rodeo at Kispiox. Held in the heart of the beautiful Kispiox Valley, this is probably the largest non-sanctioned event in BC for the Cowboys. It's a community affair, with the funds going to provide sports and community programs all year round. Though non-sanctioned, it draws some top riders because the competition is serious without being rigidly structured. It's fun for the performers and the spectators alike. This event reflected the growing popularity of the Kispiox Rodeo. New bleachers and a fence for the grounds provided more comfortable seating and more crowd control. A welcome addition as the crowds are getting bigger each year. It's believed records were set in attendance, and the profits exceeded all records in this summer of '78. The weather was perfect, just enough rain to keep down the dust. Those who came looking for fun found it. In campers and tents, the crowds spend the weekend watching the day's action in the arena and enjoying the good times at the dances and parties each night. After several years of jobbing for the gold ring, a local favorite finally captured the title all-round cowboy at Kispiox. John Allen's been riding the rodeo circuit of late, but the win he really wanted was this one. Along with the pleasure of reaching that goal, John picked up a gorgeous hand-tooled saddle for his efforts. And the ladies were also in competition for honors. When the dust settled, Cindy Nash had claimed the all-round cowgirl title at the Kispiox Rodeo, bigger and better in the summer of '78, and not finished growing just yet. The Northwest enjoys one of Canada's finest sights for a fast-growing sport, that of hang gliding. For those who would pitch themselves off a mountain in the company of aluminum and a bit of fabric, the face of Copper Mountain in Thornhill is a perfect setting. The winds up the valley and the lift off the face provide opportunity for keeping the kites aloft for long periods of time, just drifting with the birds. Though the winds can be contrary and leave the gliders with short 3-minute runs, when they're right, they're just made for records. 3 Canadian endurance records have been set here by Lance Edson, formerly of Terrace. This summer, top gliders from all over the province attended for 2 days of flights, competition run in time flight events, and in target landing. And if the view from the top is spectacular, the spectator view is little less. The landing area provides an unobstructed view of the birdmen for the entire time they are gliding. Hang gliding is growing, and the BC Open Flight competitions this summer in Thornhill help show you why.
Open Connection will be right back after these messages. And now, from the CFTK-TV studios, this is Open Connection with your host, Robert Pictou.
Founded in 1951, when British Columbia government invited Alcan to create hydroelectric facilities for the smelter, by 1978, Kitimat's economy was primarily focused on aluminum production, although other sectors such as forestry and fishing also played a role in its economic landscape. In this final segment of Open Connection, we return to the archives to bring you highlights of Kitimat's Delta King days.
As mentioned earlier, it was a special summer for Kitimat, with the regularly scheduled Delta King Days being bolstered by the party thrown for the city's 25th birthday. Delta King Days is an annual on the Victoria Day weekend as the first major event of the summer. The 2 big attractions, the raft races and the Alcan Mini Marathon. On Saturday, over 100 runners did their bit for fitness and entered the annual 10-mile marathon race. The fittest of the fit turned out to be a Terracite, Trevor Whitaker, who whipped around the course in a mere 63 minutes. The fastest of the fairer sex on the course was Iris Holderbaum of Kitimat, with a respectable time of 84 minutes. The Delta King Days raft race is one to challenge the soul of the adventurous sorts. The Kitimat River is lovely and cold and almighty quick in some places. This year the raft race was delayed. One of the log snags that always make it interesting made it impossible by completely blocking the path for a while. But once that was pulled out, the assortment of rafts with its hail crews were off. 1 hour and 5 seconds later, the winner coasted through the finish line, top honors to Kitimat booming. In place, the Hurricane team, with Foley Lumber of Terrace pulling in third. The Kitimat Elks team was not among top contenders, but did manage to draw some attention anyway, with a ringer in the crew. Skeena MP and the Minister for Fitness and Amateur Sport, Iona Campanolo, sampled the cold waters with the rest of the Elks team. In an event that's entered for the fun of floating as often as it's entered to win. The Prince Rupert Sea Fest is one of the highlights of the summer of '78 for the residents along the coast area. Activities planned around the centennial of Captain Cook, with a majority of the events centering around Prince Rupert's waterfront, but not all of them. Saturday's schedule was entirely on land. The main attraction of the day, the Sea Fest Parade. Parades are always a great success, but this year's had an extra ingredient of excitement in the form of 200 dozen carnations donated by the FTD florists. They were dropped by Trans-Provincial Airline over the parade, making a rather handsome backdrop and setting for the whole thing. The florists were holding their annual convention during that same Seafest weekend. Sunday's a big day, and everybody turned out for activities along the waterfront. Things off, there was a different type of parade, an aqua entry, a sail pass. All kinds of ships involved, big and small, with a different variety of shapes and colors on display. One of the most outstanding floats, the floating type, was this miniature pirate ship named the Recovery. And another outstanding decorated boat with unusual roof, quantity 1. But it is, after all, the Seafest bathtub race that everyone comes out to see. I mean, that's where the meat of the thing is, eh? There were 2 qualifying heats, and then it's on to the finals. This year, 13 tubs entered in the race, all holding the right to represent Prince Rupert in the World Championship tub races in Nanaimo. And after the 2 qualifying races, only 6 of the tubs were left. The race was close at the start, but after that, it was all Matt Pedersen's Speedy Tub Reliable Electric stealing the race. It was well out last year's winner, Ann Thompson, who had to settle for second this time round. But the most exciting part of the race was for third place. Don Mallet of the Coast Guard was third most of the race. He had some engine problems near the finish and couldn't hold off the full throttle of Ted Paulson. There were other races, rowing and sailing races, and Trans-Provincial even chipped in with a series of fly pasts. All in all, an exciting time for the people of Prince Rupert and their many guests.
Thank you for joining us for this episode of Open Connection. The greatest distance in the existence of man is not from here to there, but the connection from his mind and heart. If we can conquer that distance, we can soar like an eagle and realize our immensity within. I'm Robert Pictou.